Okay, so recap last week. Ling Hu Chong, he actually beat Tian Bo Guang with his new martial arts skills, okay, that he learned from the Grandmaster. And so Tian Bo Guang left defeated. He left. He went down the mountains, and then afterwards, the Grandmaster Feng Qingyang taught him all the intricacies of the Dugu Nine Swords martial arts. And so he passed down all of his martial arts information to Ling Hu Chong, and then afterwards he just left. Right, the Grandmaster just went away, and he said he didn't want to see anyone from the Huashan Sword School again. We're not sure why, but I guess he just wanted to be a hermit, so he left. And then soon after, Lu Dayo, the guy whose name is Monkey Six, okay, Ling Hu Chong's best friend and younger apprentice brother, comes up the mountains and warns him. Well, he tells him that some people from the sword branch, the long ago forgotten sword branch of the Huashan Sword School, came to the main hall of the Huashan School, and they're trying to take over the school. Okay, they're trying to take over the leadership position of his master, and then so he decides to violate his punishment. Right? Remember, he's supposed to stay up in the mountains for a year, but he decides to run down and help out. Okay, and as he was running down with Lu Dayo, he meets these six people. Okay, these six old men who act like little kids, and they're called the Peach Valley Six Fairies, and they're super. They're like 70, 80 or something, like 70 or 80 years old, all of them, and yeah, and they act really crazy. They act like six freaks, and they're like little children, and they keep arguing with each other, and they're really fun. And he and they also want to bring him to Yilin, okay? Because they said their job is to bring him to Yilin. Remember, that's the same job that Tianpo Guang said he wanted to do. So there's something's going on there. Like, why does everyone want to bring Ling Hu Chong to Yilin? Uh, but then Ling Hu Chong, being the smart guy that he was, he tricked them to come over to the Huashan main hall. Okay, so to see what's going on at the main hall, see what's happening with those people who are trying to take over the school. All right, that's it. That's a recap. That's what happened last week. Not skipping, but the volume is a little low. I see. All right, let me increase the gain. Testing, testing. No, still low. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing. Is it low or is it high? Perfect. Is it good? Yeah, sometimes my microphone gets low. I'm not sure why. What's up, Emma? Loud and clear. All right, do this. Nope, there is no menu tonight. Hey, Streety McMeaty. How's it going? All right, so we can start now. How am I doing? I am doing very well. Thank you for asking. Ate a lot of Halloween candy yesterday night. Doot, 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 doot. Okay. It is nighttime. It is, well, it's 5:30. It's getting dark earlier these days. All ready? Let's do this. Chapter 11, Energy Stream, Part 1. Oops, that is not what I wanted. Okay, so Ling Huchong and the six freaks just got to the main hall. Ling Huchong peeked inside the hall. A tall, thin, old man sat at the guest of honor seat. He was holding the command flag of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance in his right hand. It was none other than Crane Hands Lu Bai from the Songshan school. A middle-aged Taoist priest and an old man in his 50s sat next to him. Their clothing suggested that one belonged to the Taishan school and the other the Hangshan school. Next to them sat three more people, all in their 50s or 60s, and each had a Huashan school-style longsword hanging by his waist. The first one had a yellowish face with a stern look. He was probably the Feng Bu Ping that Lu Dayou had mentioned earlier. Master and master wife sat at the host seats in a company. Tea and light refreshments occupied most of the tabletop. Alright, so we got people from a bunch of schools here. The Songshan school, the Taishan, and Hangshan. So people from those schools and these guys from the sword branch of the Huashan school. Brother Yue, the old man from the Hangshan school said, we outsiders really shouldn't interfere with the internal affairs of your respectful school. However, because our 5 sword schools have joined the alliance to share both honor and disgrace, if one school didn't handle things well and became the laughingstock of fellow martial people, the other 4 schools would be disgraced as well. Earlier, Madame Yue said that the 3 schools, Songshan, Taishan, and Hangshan, should only mind their own business. I think that was inaccurate. His 2 eyes were almost completely yellow, as if he had a yellow fever. They are still in the middle of the dispute. Master hasn't given up and stepped down from his post yet. Ling Huchong felt some relief. Apprentice Brother Lu, it sounds like you are determined that our Huashan school is not handling things properly, and that has implicated your respectful school's reputation, aren't you? Madame Yue asked. The old man Lu from the Hangshan school sneered. I've long heard that Heroine Ning is the backstage headmaster of the Huashan school. Didn't want to believe it before, but after having the pleasure to meet you today, I have to agree that it is really a well-deserved reputation. Apprentice Brother Lu, you've come here to Mount Huashan as a guest. I don't want to offend you because that would be an inappropriate way to treat a guest. Who would have expected such absurd nonsense from a famous master of the Hangshan school? When I see great Mr. Mo next time, I'm sure I will discuss about this with him, Madame Yue rebuffed angrily. Madame Yue, you are holding off your offense only because I am a guest here. And if this wasn't Mount Huashan, you would have slashed your sword toward my head, wouldn't you? The old man Lu said with a sneer. I wouldn't dare, Madame Yue replied. How dare our Huashan school interfere with the internal affair of your respectful school? When people from your respectful school collaborate with the demon cult, there's always Alliance Chief Zhuo of the Songshan school to clean him out for you. What's the need for our Huashan school to get involved? Hangshan School's Liu Zhengfeng and the demon cult elder Chu Yang died outside of Hangshan town together. It had become public knowledge in the martial world that the Songshan school was responsible for it. The Songshan school was responsible for it. Madame Yue specifically mentioned in the incidents here to first jab at the old man Lu's sore spots, and secondly to ridicule him, implying that he not only didn't have any grievance of losing an apprentice brother to the Songshan school, but instead came together with the Songshan school people to give trouble to the Yue couple. The old man Lu immediately put on a stern face. Throughout the ages, which school is immune of unworthy apprentices? He screeched. That's exactly the reason. We have to come to Mount Huashan today to uphold justice and help Brother Feng clean out the evil bunch in the school. Who is the evil bunch? My husband Yue Buchun's nickname is Gentleman's Sword. What's your nickname? Madame Yue said coldly as she grabbed onto her sword handle. The old man Lu blushed, yet he didn't answer the question and only eyed Madame Yue angrily with his two yellow piercing eyes. The old man was a master of the Hangshan school. However, he didn't have much fame in the martial world. Ling Huchong had no clue about his identity, so he turned his head back and asked Lao Denois, "Who is he? What's his nickname?" Ling Huchong knew that before Lao Denois joined the Huashan school, Lao Denois is the second apprentice brother, so he's right below Ling Huchong. He had kung fu skills already and had also much knowledge about all kinds of anecdotes of the martial world. Sure enough, Lao Denois knew this one. This old folk's name is Lu Liangrong, Lao Denois answered in a whisper. His formal nickname is Golden-Eyed Eagle, but because he is always gossipy and meddlesome, quite annoying all the time, so everybody calls him Golden-Eyed Crow instead, behind his back. Ling Huchong grinned, he thought. Probably no one dared to call him that unpleasant nickname to his face, but as time went by, it would eventually come to his attention. When Master Wife asked him about his nickname, he obviously knew that she was referring to Golden-Eyed Crow, not Golden-Eyed Eagle. Hey Gyro, what's up? How's it going? This is a kung fu story, yeah, but you're kind of in the middle of it because we're on book 2, so you might want to go back to book 1 or stay. I don't know, whatever you want to do. Lu Liangrong snorted angrily. Gentleman's sword. Hypocrite sword is probably more appropriate. Witnessing such audacious behavior of humiliating the master right to his face, Ling Huchong could no longer hold his anger. You damn blind crow! Get your ass out here if you got any guts, he shouted out. Yue Buchun had heard Ling Huchong talking with Lao Denois outside and had been wondering, how come Chong has come down the cliff? Now hearing Ling Huchong's shouting, he reproved at once. Chong, behave yourself. Uncle Master is a guest here. How can you speak with such disrespect? Anger swept Lu Liangrong, and it seemed as if fire almost shot out of his piercing eyes. He had heard before how the Huashan school head apprentice He had heard before how the Huashan school head apprentice Ling Huchong had run wild in Hangshan town, so he yelled back, I was wondering who that might be. It's the chap who went whoring in Hangshan town. Huashan school surely houses a lot of talent. That's right. When I went whoring in Hangshan town, I slept with a bitch named Lu. Ling Huchong grinned. You stop the nonsense, Yue Buchun yelled at Ling Huchong angrily. Seeing his master getting angry, Ling Huchong dared not to say another word, while Lu Bai, Feng Buping, and the bunch simply couldn't help but grin. Lu Liangrong turned around abruptly and kicked out with his left foot. With a loud bang, a frame of the long window was knocked flying in the air. He had never met Ling Huchong before, so he pointed at the general direction of the Huashan school apprentices and yelled, Which dirty swine said that? All the Huashan school apprentices stood silently and no one answered. Let's give him like a kind of a higher pitched voice. God damn it! Which dirty swine just said that? Lu Liangrong swore again. You are the only one talking. How would I know what kind of dirty swine you are? Ling Hucheng said with a big grin. Lu Liangrong's anger exploded. With a loud roar, he jumped onto Ling Hucheng. Seeing the vicious force coming toward him, Ling Hucheng leapt back. Suddenly, a shadow flashed as someone drifted out from inside the hall. Beams of silver light flashed while the sounds of weapon colliding echoed as the person started an all-out attack on Lu Liangrong. It was Madame Yue. She leapt out of the hall, drew her sword, blocked Lu Liangrong's attack, and launched her counterattack in such a smooth and uninterrupted manner. Her movements were simply beautiful and graceful. Even though she executed every single move with lightning fast speed, everyone was so taken by the beautiful movements that no one noticed her swiftness. We are all friends here. Why don't we take our time and talk the issue through? There's no need to start a fight, Yue Buchun said as he strolled out of the hall without hurry. Pulling out the sword by Lao Nuo's waist, Yue Buchun reached out and pushed his sword down after a flip, which held both Lu Liangrong's sword and Madame Yue's sword down under. Lu Liangrong shifted all his strength onto his arm and lifted with a hard jerk, but to his surprise, he couldn't move his sword even an inch. He blushed and then tried several times more, each time with a harder jerk. Our Five Mountain Sword Alliance has the same root with different branches. We are all like members of a big family. Apprentice Brother Lu, please don't pay much attention to the junior kids. Yue Buchun smiled. He turned his head to Ling Hucheng. You are full of nonsense. Apologize to your uncle, Master Lu, right now, he admonished. So it looks like Yue Buchun is like saying you should be respectful, even to these guys who are trying to take over his school. Getting the command from the master, Ling Hucheng had no other choice but to step forward and salute. Uncle Master Lu, I was really blind and didn't know how to talk properly. I barked madly like a damn crow and slandered the reputation of a supreme kung fu master. This is so unworthy, even a dirty swine could have done better. Will your excellency please don't feel offended? I wasn't talking about you. The damn crows bark like mad, but we'll excuse him as if he was farting. He used the words damn crow back and forth. Everyone knew that he was ridiculing Lu Liangrong again. Most people were able to hold their laughs inside, but Yue Lingshan started giggling loudly. Yue Buchun could feel that Lu Liangrong tried to jerk upward 3 times in a row. He let out a slight smile and drew his sword back, leisurely, to give it back to Lao Nuo. When the tremendous pressure on Lu's sword suddenly vanished, Lu Liangrong's arm naturally went upward. 2 cracking sounds echoed as 2 pieces of broken swords fell on the ground. Both Lu Liangrong's sword and Madame Yue's sword in their hands had only half of the blade remaining. Lu Liangrong had been using all his strength to fight Yue Buchun's push. When his arm went up abruptly, the broken sword in his hand also slashed upward and almost cut his own forehead. Fortunately, he had great arm strength and was able to stop the movement in time, but the frantic rush still looked quite awkward. You, 2 against 1, Lu Liangrong snapped, but he soon remembered that Yue Buchun's inner energy broke Madame Yue's longsword just the same. By then, Lu Bai, Fang Buping, and the rest of the bunch had all come out of the hall to watch the fight, and Lu Liangrong knew that each one of them could easily tell Yue Buchun was only reconciling and preventing the 2 from fighting each other without granting favor to either side. However, it was probably no big deal for a husband to break a wife's longsword. Lu Liangrong, on the other hand, couldn't take it so easily, so he couldn't help but mother. But he couldn't help. So he couldn't help but mutter, You! Stamping his right foot on the floor heavily, he turned around and rushed away in rage with the broken sword still in his hand, never casting a glance back. At the time when Yue Buchun had broken the two swords with his inner energy, he had already seen the Peach Valley six fairies standing behind Ling Huchong. Very surprised by their unusual looks, he cupped his hands and greeted. The six of you have come to Mount Huashan, and I haven't greeted you properly. Please pardon my ignorance. The six fairies simply stared at him, blankly, neither greeting back nor speaking a word. This is my master, headmaster of the Huashan school, Mr. Yue, Ling Huchong introduced. Before he even finished his sentence, Fang Buping interrupted. Your master, he sure is. Whether he is the headmaster of the Huashan school, we'll just have to see. Apprentice Brother Yue, the divine art of violet twilight you just displayed is quite impressive. However, knowing this Qigong technique does not make you competent for the authority over the Huashan school. Everyone knows that Huashan School is a sword school member of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance. Sword school? Sword school. Sword school. Of course, sword skill is the main driving force, but you keep working with your inner energy skills. You have gone on the evil route. What you are practicing is far from our school's orthodox principle. So he's saying again that, remember, the Huashan school had two branches, right? The sword branch and the chi branch. Sword branch focused on sword techniques, and the chi branch focused on chi technique. So now both sides think the other side is going down the evil route. So that's why he's saying you've gone down the evil route. Brother Feng, your comments are really overstating, Yue Buchun defended. Sure, each school of the Five Mountain Sword Alliance uses sword as the weapon, but no matter which school or which style it is, it all follows the principle of energy drives the sword. Sword skills are external techniques, while Qigong techniques are the internal techniques. One must master both the external and the internal to be able to achieve perfection in Kung Fu training. If someone only practices sword techniques like how you just described, then when he meets a Qigong master, he would naturally be pale in comparison. Fang Buping sneered. That's not necessarily correct. It would be wonderful if someone can be an expert in every field of the three religions and the 9 schools of thought: medicine, divination, astrology, fortune telling, the 4 books and the 5 classics, and the 18 types of weaponry. It would be fantastic if he could be a master in every single style, yet let it be either knife art or spear art. But everyone's lifespan is limited, and it is impossible for one to master everything. When one focuses only on sword art, it is already difficult to be excellent at it. Why should he get sidetracked by other kung fu skills? I am not saying that practicing Qigong techniques is bad, only that the orthodox kung fu of our Huashan school is sword art. It's totally fine if you want to get into the heterodox kung fu, even if you decide to learn the essence absorbing art of the demon cult. It's your own choice, and nobody else's business, let alone practicing Qigong techniques. When an ordinary person ruins his own training because of greed and avarice, he has himself to blame for his suffering. Now, since you are the headmaster of the Huashan school, and have also chosen to go on such a destructive route, you are really misleading all the apprentices and exerting a widespread, pernicious influence. Did I cut my hair? No, actually. I let it grow. I cut my hair like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it's getting kind of long. Or a little bit. Yeah. What uh uh what hairstyle do you think would be good on me? Let me know. A notion suddenly popped into Ling Huchong's head. Grand Uncle Master Feng only taught me sword technique. He is probably from the sword branch. Is it is it wrong that I have learned sword techniques from him? Instantly he thought The thought sent cold shivers down his spine, and he broke out in a cold sweat. So here Ling Hucheng finally realizes that, in the last two chapters, he has been learning Kung Fu from this guy, this grandmaster, from the sword branch of his school, right? And he's supposed to be from the Chi branch. Misleading all the apprentices and exerting a widespread pernicious influence? That's not true, Yue Buchun smiled. The short man standing next to Feng Wuping suddenly cut in loudly. Why is it not true? You have taught a bunch of damn useless apprentices. If that's not misleading all the apprentices and exerting a widespread pernicious influence, then what is? Apprentice Brother Feng said that your Kung Fu is the heterodox and you are not worthy to be the headmaster of the Huashan school. He is absolutely right. Are you going to step down yourself or wait for someone to drag you down? By then, Lu Dayo finally arrived. Seeing that big apprentice brother stared at the short man with a questioning look, he whispered to Ling Huchong, I heard, uh, I heard from their earlier conversations with Master that the short guy's name is Cheng Bu Yo. Brother Cheng, Brother Cheng, Yue Buchun said, your sword branch left our school 25 years ago and stopped calling yourselves apprentices of the Huashan school. Why do you come back and make trouble now? If you think your kung fu skills are wonderful, you can simply start your own school. Once you gain great fame in the martial world and your reputation precedes the Huashan school, I would only have admiration. However, what good does your pointless argument do other than getting us on bad terms with each other? Nikki, you think Grand Uncle Master Feng is a ghost? Hmm. Grow it out long? Past my shoulders? Oh no. Why? That's gonna take a long time. And I don't think it'll look good. I don't know. If I can grow a beard, then maybe I can pull off the Jesus look. But I don't think I can do that. Hey Orava, welcome back. Oh, you've literally never been noticed by any YouTuber other than Jacksepticeye? Well, hey Timothy, you have been noticed. Braided like Rapunzel. Oh, you guys are getting weird ideas. You wish you couldn't grow a beard? No, I wish I could kind of grow a beard, but I can't. It's just like I just grow like hair right here, or like a here and here. Yeah, but it's very small. It looks like pubic hair. You know what I mean? You're very sparse, so I have to shave every day, or it'll look really weird. The bald look? Maybe, maybe I should like Photoshop myself to see what I look like bald. Ah shit, I forgot what voice I gave this guy. Let's go with a really annoying one. Apprentice brother Yue, Chang Buyo said loudly. I have no grudge against you, and I really didn't want to get on bad terms with you. You arrogated the post of Huashan School headmaster, yet you only teach the apprentices inner energy techniques instead of advanced sword techniques. That caused our Huashan School's reputation to decline greatly. In the end, you can't just shirk the responsibility and shift the blame onto others. I am an apprentice of the Huashan School, and that's why I can't just watch by the side with folded arms and pretend not to see it. In addition, when the Chi branch pushed the sword branch out, your methods weren't that clear and above board. None of our sword branch apprentices were convinced of the legitimacy. We have already endured it for 25 years. Today is finally the time we can square the accounts. The conflict between the Chi branch and the sword branch of our school has a long history. On that day when the two branches had the big contest atop the Jade Maiden Peak, the winner was determined. What's right and what's wrong was identified. What good does it do for the three of you to just bring the past history out 25 years later? Yabu Chun said. Who saw the end result of the sword contest on that day? The three of us are all apprentices of the sword branch. How come none of us saw it? In short, you took the headmaster post in a very unclear and suspicious fashion. Otherwise, why would Alliance Chief Zhuo, the leader of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance, grant us the command flag to let you step down? Chang Buyo challenged. Yeah, so the command flag came from the overall leader of the alliance. So it looks like he gave them permission to take over the school, which sucked. And yeah, and we don't know why. That is really odd. Yue Buchun shook his head. Alliance Chief Zhou has good understanding and judgment. Based on this scenario, he would have never granted the command flag all of a sudden to let the Huashan school change its headmaster. Are you saying the command flag is a fake? Chang Buyo pointed at the command flag of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance. The command flag is authentic, but the command flag doesn't speak, Yue Buchun said. Lu Bai had been watching quietly by the side all the time. He finally cut in. Apprentice brother Yue, you said that the command flag doesn't speak, but can't I speak either? Even if Alliance Chief Zhou really thought so, His Excellency still can't give the order after hearing. Wait, this is Yue Buchun talking. Even if Alliance Chief Zhou really thought so, His Excellency still can't give the order, and hearing only one side of the story. He's got to listen to my words as well. Besides, Alliance Chief Zhou is the chief of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance, and his responsibilities include the common issues across the five sword schools. Regarding the internal affairs of the Taishan, Hangshan, and Huashan schools, the headmaster of each school has the authority, Yue Buchun concluded. You are surely wordy, so after all, you are not going to give up the post of the headmaster, am I not right? Chang Buyo croaked. Wait, what the hell is going on in the chat? You want me to grow my hair down to my waist? Come on. That is so hard to keep up, you guys. That's a long time that I have to spend in the shower every day. You can literally lick your hair. Okay. Does your hair taste good? Why do you want to lick your hair? Yeah, I'm probably not growing it down to my waist. That is not what I'm going to do. Not using it as toilet paper either. Long hair is easy. I don't look good long hair. Oh, yeah, I don't. I actually used to have, when I was younger, used to have longer hair. Like, it went down to like here. But that's the most I've ever grown it. Yeah. Well, maybe a little bit like over the eyes. Yeah, and then you have to do this all the time. You know what I mean? Like, uh, uh. Yeah. With this, like, I don't need to do that shit. Yeah. It's very convenient. Have it John Nugget. Okay. I did have bangs. By the time he spit out the words headmaster, he had already drawn his sword. At the word M, he shot out a thrust. At the word I, he shot out another thrust. And at the word not, he shot out a third thrust. And at the word right, he shot out one more thrust. He said the words, am I not right, in one breath. And he shot 4 thrusts out continuously at the same time. So he's really from the sword branch of the school because his sword moves are really fast. The 4 thrusts were executed in supreme speed, and each of the 4 continuous thrusts used a different fierce technique with brilliant variation. The first thrust penetrated Yue Buchun's robe on his left shoulder. The second one penetrated his robe on his right shoulder. The third penetrated the sleeve by his left arm, and the fourth penetrated the robe by his right chest. Each of the 4 thrusts went straight through and all 4 of them left a total of 8 holes on Yue Buchun's robe. The blade went right next to Yue Buchun's skin with a mere half an inch distance each time, though none touched his skin at all. The brilliance of the moves, the supreme speed, the precise accuracy, and the fierce force of the thrust all showed the bearing of a first-class elite fighter. So he kind of like poked it through his robe like this, so he left 2 holes, one in the front and one in the back for each thrust, right? 4 thrusts. All Huashan school apprentices turned pale with terror, except Ling Huchong, thinking, these 4 moves are all moves of our Huashan school style, but we have never seen Master demonstrate them before. The elite fighter from the sword branch surely is extraordinary. However, Lu Bai, Fang Buping, and the rest of the visitors felt more admiration toward Yue Buchun. When Chang Buyo suddenly shot out 4 thrusts continuously, each thrust was a fierce move and capable of killing Yue Buchun on the spot. Yet, Yue Buchun still maintained his smile throughout the course and took the 4 thrusts with complete ease. The confidence he showed was exceptional. Chang Buyo and his companions came to Mount Huashan with a clear intention to take the headmaster post from him. No matter how kind Yue Buchun was, he couldn't have not guarded against the possibility that his opponent might launch a sudden attack to harm him. Yet, he didn't dodge at all and took the 4 thrusts without any worries. Obviously, he had a plan well thought out, and as soon as Chang Buyo proceeded to harm him, he would have a way to counter. Within the split of a second, he was actually capable of countering the enemy and protecting himself. His kung fu had to be far better than Chang Buyo's. Yue Buchun didn't even move a little finger, but the power he had just shown was no different than winning the fight. Ling Huchong recognized the 4 moves Chang Buyo had used easily. They really originated from a Huashan school-style sword move drawn on the rock wall in the back cave. So he already saw this move, or these moves, in the cave that he was in. The cave with all the drawings of all the sword moves of all the other schools. Chang Buyo simply transformed it into 4 different thrusts with slight variations. Although the 4 thrusts looked completely different from each other, they really all came from one move. He couldn't help but think, no matter how brilliant Sword Branch's sword moves are, they still can't exceed the scope of the drawings on the rock wall. Brother Chang, my husband has given ground again and again. Considering that you are all guests here, you have made 8 holes on his robe already. If you haven't figured out how to behave yourself by now, be aware that even though our Huashan school respects its guests, there is still a limit, Madame Yue warned. Giving ground? Guests? What are you talking about? Madame Yue, all you have to do is defeat my 4 sword moves. If you can do that, I'll leave the premise with no complaints. And not only that, I'll never set foot on the Jade Maiden Peak again, Chang Buyo exclaimed. Chang Buyo considered himself an excellent swordsman, but seeing the confidence and calmness Yue Buchun just put on display, he dared not to challenge Yue Buchun. He thought, even though Madame Yue also has great fame in the Huashan school, she is a woman after all. Didn't she show a frightened look when she saw the 4 thrusts of mine? If I can goad her into a fight, I am sure I can subdue her. By then, Yue Buchun might surrender for the sake of Madame Yue's safety, or, at least, he would be greatly worried and get thrown off balance. That would certainly give Brother Fang Buping some advantages. Madame Yue, please. It is well known that the heroine Ning is a first-class master of the Huashan School Qi branch. Chang Buyo from the sword branch would like to check out heroine Ning's Qigong techniques. Cupping his hands, Chang Buyo said loudly. By saying so, he had made it very clear that this was going to be a duel between the sword branch and the Qi branch of the Huashan School. Although Madame Yue wasn't sure she could beat those 4 clever and ingenious sword moves, she simply couldn't stand Chang Buyo's overbearing attitude. With a loud ring, she unsheathed her sword. Alright, let's do 5 minutes break, okay? And we'll be right back for the fight. We'll see what happens. Alright, guys. Be right back. Oh, I have music, don't I? This was requested by someone. So we'll play that music during the break. Alright, you guys. Be right back. I'm back. Jay Rodriguez says, has anyone ever mentioned your female voice sounds like the chick from the movie Kung Pao Enter the Fist? Which female voice? You mean this one? This voice? Is it this voice you're talking about? Or is it this one? Or is it the old chick? What's that, Flowing Spring? Oh yeah, Flowing Spring is the one who requested that song. That's a good song. It does remind me of mountain with mists, like those Chinese mountains. Yeah, that is awesome movie. Okay, so we're gonna have a fight, and it's gonna be a symbolic fight too, because it's gonna be kind of it'll show the people watching which branch of the school is better, the sword branch or the Qi branch. Oh, you like my voice? Thank you so much. All right, let's do this. Master Wife, Ling Hu Chong cut in quickly. Sword Branch's way of practice has gone astray. How could it ever match the orthodox kung fu of our Huashan school? Please allow me, the apprentice, to fight him first. If my qigong techniques are sloppy and I fail to beat him, then Master Wife can dismiss him later. He didn't even wait for Madame Yue's approval and leapt forward immediately, hiding Madame Yue behind his back. In his right hand, he held a broom, which he had picked up randomly by the wall. Master Cheng, Ling Hu Chong pointed the handle of the broom at Cheng Buyo. You are no longer a member of our school. I guess I won't be calling you an uncle master. If you have already realized your mistakes and want to mend your ways so you can join Huashan school again, I am not too sure whether my master is still willing to take you back. Even if my master is willing to make the sacrifice and take you back in, according to school rules, the earlier, the more senior status. you will have to call me a senior apprentice brother. Come on, let's play. So he's gonna attack him with the broom. What? Why? Nonsense, you filthy swine. If you can survive these 4 moves of mine, I'll submit myself to you as an apprentice, Cheng Buyo shouted in outrage. Ling Huchong shook his head. I'm not sure I want to. I'm not sure I want an apprentice like you. Before he even finished the sentence, Cheng Buyo had interrupted him with a shout. Draw your sword and get ready to die. Even a branch can be used as a sharp blade once it carries enough inner energy. Brother Cheng, just to counter those couple of your sloppy sword moves, I don't think there's a need to use a real sword, Ling Huchong answered. Fine. Don't blame me for being cruel then. Blame it on your own arrogance. Yue Buchun and Madame Yue both knew very well that Cheng's kung fu skills were far superior to Ling Huchong's. Using a broom against Cheng Buyo's sword would be almost like fighting him with bare hands. Way too dangerous. They shouted almost in unison. Chong, step back. In blazing flashes, Cheng Buyo lunged his thrust toward Ling Huchong. It was the same move he had attacked Yue Buchun with a minute earlier. He had his reasons for using the exact same move. Firstly, those moves were among his best techniques. Secondly, he did say that he would use the same sword moves. Thirdly, by using the same moves again, he was letting his opponent gain certain advantages by knowing what to expect, thus getting compensated for his own advantage of using a better weapon. Ling Huchong had already figured out ways to counter Cheng's moves before he challenged Cheng Buyo. In those drawings on the rock wall in the back cave, all figures use unique weapons to counter sword moves. If he chose to use a sword in the fights, he wouldn't have the certainty of success because he had not mastered the techniques in the Dugu 9 swords. But the shabby broom had the shape of a thunderbolt mace and would be perfect for those moves in the drawing. Okay, so he already saw the ways to counter this guy's technique, and he used a broom, which is the closest thing to the shape of this thunderbolt mace thing that he saw in the cave. Seeing Cheng Buyo's sword thrusting toward him, Ling Huchong brushed the broom toward Cheng Buyo's face. This brushing move was a very risky move indeed. A great thunderbolt mace is made out of steel, and if the brushing move had landed squarely, the opponent would have been either killed or at least severely wounded. If he had a real thunderbolt mace in his hand, the brushing move would be an ingenious move, and the opponent would be forced to suspend his thrust and draw his sword back to defend. But what kind of damage would a shabby broom do to the opponent? He only had plain, ordinary inner energy strength and was just talking big when he said even a branch can be used as a sharp blade once it carries enough inner energy. Even if the brushing move hit Cheng Buyo on the face, the most damage would be no more than a few scratches, nothing major at all. But Cheng Buyo's thrust would for sure penetrate his chest all the way. Ling Huchong was really betting on the theory that a senior master like Cheng Buyo would never allow the filthy and shabby broom to hit him in the face, because the humiliation would be too great compared to the satisfaction from killing Ling Huchong. Surely enough, in the gasping sounds from the watching crowd, Cheng Buyo turned his head aside and pulled his sword back to chop at the broom. Ling Huchong moved the shabby broom to the side and dodged the chop. Having no choice but to pull back his sword and block the broom in his first move, Cheng Buyo couldn't help but blush. He had no idea that Ling Huchong's brush with the shabby broom was actually created by over 10 demon cult elders working their hearts out, spending countless hours with combined efforts just to counter this exact sword move of his. It was really a masterpiece work that had been polished again and again. He figured that Ling Huchong must have come up with such a move accidentally and defeated his move by sheer luck. In great rage, he launched his second thrust. This time, the thrust didn't follow the original sequence. It was really the fourth thrust that he had used to pierce Yue Buchun's robe under Yue's armpit. Ling Wuchong turned his body to the side while handing over the broom to his left hand. It looked as if he was just dodging Chang's thrust, but the shabby broom in his left hand suddenly shot out in a flash and went straight toward Chang Buyo's chest. The broom was much longer than the sword, so even though the thrust from the broom was launched later, it reached the target earlier. Before Chang Buyo had enough time to circle his blade around, the bamboo threads at the end of the broom had jabbed onto his chest. Got you, Ling Huchong shouted. With a quick slashing sound, Chang Buyo's blade slashed the end of the broom off. But all the elite fighters in the watching crowd saw clearly that Chang Buyo had already lost. If Ling Huchong had used a real thunderbolt mace, or a spike-toothed harrow, or a crescent-shaped spade, all made out of steel, Chang Buyo would have been badly injured in the chest. If Ling Huchong were a first-class senior master, Chang Buyo would have no choice but to throw down his sword to admit his defeat and give up the fight. But Ling Huchong obviously was just a second-generation apprentice. How embarrassing would it be to lose to him with his shabby broom? With that in mind, Chang Buyo launched another 3 thrusts, all of which used superb techniques of the Huashan school. Out of the 3 moves, it turned out that 2 of them were among the ones carved on the rock wall in the back cave. Although Ling Huchong had never seen the 3rd move, after learning the sword-breaking stance in Dugu 9 Swords, he had a pretty good understanding of how to counter various sword moves out there. He turned his body and dodged one of Chang's thrusts, then immediately countered with a technique from the rock wall that used a staff to counter sword techniques. Using the broom handle as a staff, he knocked Chang Buyo's sword to the side with a smack, and then thrust his broom handle straight toward Chang Buyo's sword tip. If he had an iron staff or iron club in his hand, then because the staff was solid and the sword was flexible, and when the 2 forces collided, the longsword would immediately break into pieces, and the sword-wielding fighter would have no way out of it. But when he used the technique in a hurry, without too much thinking, he completely forgot that he was only holding a bamboo stick. When the bamboo stick met the sharp sword, it was almost like a hot knife cutting through butter. With a loud cracking sound, the longsword stabbed all the way into the bamboo stick, leaving only the sword handle visible outside. Ling Huchong reacted with a very quick mind within a split second. He struck the broom handle from the side with his right hand. The broom handle, together with a sword inside it, flew high in the air toward the side. Filled with anger and embarrassment, Chang Buyo flipped his left palm rapidly and with a loud smacking sound struck Ling Huchong squarely on the chest. Wait, I think I have a sound effect. Chang Buyo had decades of experience in Kung Fu, but Ling Huchong was only familiar with techniques in sword moves and was no match for him in a bare-handed combat. Falling backwards, Ling Huchong flew in the air and landed on the floor, with his back first, while blood spurted out from his mouth. Suddenly, several shadows flashed forward in a split of a second. Chang Buyo was already lifted off the ground by his 4 limbs. A loud scream echoed as blood and internal organs shattered all over the floor. He had been ripped into 4 pieces. 4 extremely ugly freaks, each held in their hands one of Chang Buyo's limbs. The 4 Peach Valley's fairies had literally ripped a once alive Chang Buyo into 4 pieces. Oh, didn't expect that, did you? The sudden event happened so abruptly and unexpectedly that everyone in the crowd was struck dumb by terror. Seeing the horrible sight of blood and flesh mingling together, Yue Lingshan uttered a short shriek and then fainted. Even those very experienced elite fighters in the martial world, like Yue Buchun, Lu Bai, and so on, were all seized with panic. Yeah, so it was those Peach Valley's fairies, those old guys with the minds of little kids. Apparently, they're very powerful. That's good, right? Problem solved. At the time, when the 4 Peach Valley's fairies ripped in Changbuyo into pieces, Flower Fairy and Fruit Fairy had already rushed forward simultaneously. Picking Ling Huchang up from the floor, they ran toward the foothill in an amazing speed. Yue Buchun and Fang Buping both drew their swords and thrust toward Branch Fairy and Leaf Fairy's backs almost at the same instant. Root Fairy and Trunk Fairy each took out a short iron club and blocked the two thrusts in unison. The weapon colliding sounds echoed as the 4 Peach Valley's fairies accelerated away with their excellent Qinggong skills, never looking back. Within seconds, the 6 freaks and Ling Huchang had all disappeared from sight. Lu Bai, Yue Buchun, and Feng Buping could only look at each other in blank dismay, seeing how the 6 freaks had taken off in such amazing speed. They all knew too well that it was impossible to keep up with them. Staring at the blood and the 4 pieces that used to be Changbu Yo, everyone felt great terror and shame. After a long while, Lu Bai shook his head. Feng Buping shook his head as well. The palm strike from Changbu Yo hit Ling Huchang solidly and squarely. Ling Huchang was so severely wounded that shortly after the 2 Peach Valley's fairies carried him away, he fell unconscious. By the time he regained his consciousness and opened his eyes slowly, he saw 2 horsey faces piled with concerns and caring, with 2 pairs of eyes staring directly at his face without blinking. Oh, Nikki, you left for 5 minutes and there are body parts everywhere. Did you miss the part where the peach berries ripped that guy into 4 pieces? Seeing that Ling Huchong opened his eyes, Flower Fairy said in joy, "He's awake! He's awake! This lad won't die on us now." "Of course he won't die on us. How could he just die because someone gave him a gentle palm strike?" Fruit Fairy commented. "Geez, it all sounds so easy from your mouth. If this palm strike had landed on you, of course it would be nothing, but since it landed on this lad, maybe it will kill him," Flower Fairy snubbed. "He is obviously not dead. Why are you saying that it will kill him?" Fruit Fairy asked. "I didn't say that it definitely would kill him. I said that it maybe would kill him," Flower Fairy argued. "Since he turned out to be alive, you can't say that maybe it will kill him," Fruit Fairy disagreed. "I've already said that, so what?" Flower Fairy charged. "That proves that your foresight was totally wrong, and we can also say that you have no foresight," Fruit Fairy replied. I don't know how much longer I can do this. "If you had foresight and knew that for sure he wouldn't die, then why did you moan and groan and pull a long face?" Flower Fairy countered. "First of all, I moaned and groaned earlier not because I was worried that he might die. I was worrying about how worried the little nun would be once she sees him like this. Secondly, since we won the bet with the little nun and agreed to come to Mount Huashan and invite Ling Huchong to go see her, and now we've only gotten a half-alive, half-dead Ling Huchong, I'm afraid that the little nun wouldn't concur," Fruit Fairy explained. "If you are so sure that he definitely won't die, you can just go tell the little nun not to worry about it. And since the little nun won't be worrying about it, why are you so worried?" Flower Fairy challenged. "First of all, when I tell the little nun not to worry, she won't necessarily listen to me. Even if she does listen to me and pretends not to worry, she will in fact still worry about it. Secondly, although this lad won't die, he is indeed wounded pretty badly, and maybe it would be pretty hard to recover. And then, of course, I am slightly worried," Fruit Fairy answered. Ling Huchang could hear the arguing back and forth between the 2 brothers. Their words were ludicrous, but obviously the 2 of them were both deeply concerned about his well-being. He couldn't help but feel grateful. When he heard the 2 talking about the little nun might worry about him, he figured that the little nun must have been little apprentice sister Yilin of the Hangshan school. So he said with a smile, "You 2 can relax. Ling Huchang won't die so easily." Fruits Fairy was overjoyed. "Did you hear that? He said himself that he won't die, and you were saying that maybe it will kill him," he said to Flower Fairy. "When I said that earlier, he hadn't opened his mouth and started talking yet," Flower Fairy argued. "He opened his eyes, and then of course he would open his mouth and start talking. Anybody can see that. Duh," Fruit Fairy said. Ling Huchang thought that if these 2 kept arguing back and forth, there would never be an end to it. So he interrupted with a smile. I was going to die, but when I heard that the two of you really didn't want me to die, I thought to myself, geez, Peach Valley Six Fairies have such immense fame and reputation in the martial world. When you don't want me to die, how dare I die on you? These words sounded like music in Flower Fairy and Fruit Fairy's ears. They immediately agreed in unison. Yes, yes, this guy's words are so logical. Let's go tell the other brothers. The two of them rushed out in a dash. Ling Hucheng found himself lying on a wooden bed. The netting above his head was ragged and aged. Having no idea where he was at this moment, he turned his head slightly, which only resulted in great pains coming from his chest. So he remained still in the same position. Not long after, Root Fairy and the remaining fairies all rushed into the room. As soon as they came in, they all started talking non-stop. Some of them started claiming credit for themselves. Some appraised Ling Hucheng's decision not to die on them. Some others started talking about how they rushed into rescuing Ling Hucheng and didn't have any time to square the accounts with that old dog from the Songshan school. Otherwise, they would have ripped him into 4 pieces and see if he could still nip Peach Valley Six Fairies dead, like nipping puny ants after he turned into 4 pieces. In order to join in and share the happy mood, the six fairies were displaying, Ling Hucheng struggled to gather enough strength and carried out a few dialogues, but he soon fell back into a coma. In the wooziness, Ling Hucheng felt nauseated in his chest and almost felt like that his entire artery system had turned upside down. It was such an unspeakable discomfort. Then, after a long while, he gradually regained his consciousness. This time he felt as if his body had been roasted in a huge oven. In great pain, he couldn't help but groan. Then he heard somebody yelling at him. Be quiet! Ling Hucheng opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was a tiny light from the lamp on the table. Then he found himself lying on the floor, almost completely naked. 4 Peach Valley fairies each grabbed hold of one of his 4 limbs, and the other 2 fairies each had a palm on him. One pressed down on his stomach, the other one pressed down on the Bai Hui point near his forehead. In great terror, Ling Hucheng felt a stream of hot energy flowing upwards, starting from the hollow of his left foot, passing by his left leg, lower stomach, chest, right arm, and all the way up to the hollow of his right palm. Then another stream of hot energy flew downward, starting from the hollow of his left palm, passing by his left arm, chest, abdomen, right leg, all the way down till the hollow of his right foot. The 2 streams of hot energy twirled and circled as if they were hot steam heating up inside Ling Hucheng. Sweat streamed down all over Ling Hucheng's body. He couldn't stand the burning heat a second longer. Ling Hucheng knew the Peach Valley Six Fairies were trying to heal his wounds using advanced Qigong techniques with superb inner energy. While feeling grateful full-heartedly, he tried to gather his own inner energy using the Huashan school style Qigong techniques his master had taught him, so that it would add to the streams of energy flow. But as soon as a stream of his own inner energy emerged from within his abdomen, an appalling pain suddenly came from his abdomen, as if a knife had cut through his stomach. Ling Hucheng growled in pain as blood spurted out from his mouth like a fountain. Not good, Peach Valley's 6 fairies cried out in unison. Leaf Fairy flipped his palm in a hurry and struck Ling Hucheng on the forehead, which knocked him out cold immediately. Ling Hucheng stayed in a coma afterwards, feeling hot for a moment and then cold for the next. The 2 streams of hot energy kept flowing back and forth around his entire body, and sometimes even more streams of hot energy would emerge and collide with each other, making it even more unbearable for him. After an unknown amount of time, he finally felt a brief period of coolness in his head and gained some consciousness. He could hear that the Peach Valley 6 fairies were in the middle of a heated argument. He opened his eyes slowly and saw Trunk Fairy standing next to him. So it looks like they're trying to heal him with their chi. See, he stopped sweating and even opened his eyes. Isn't my method the truly effective one? My stream of energy flows from Zhongdu Point to Fengxi Point and Huaqiao Point, and then circling back and forth around his Yuanye Point. I am positive that it would definitely heal his internal injuries, Punk Fairy exclaimed. Save your breath. If I hadn't used my own method the day before yesterday and sent my stream of energy going back and forth along the many passages around his foot to liver Yue Yin channel, the lad would have been dead a long time ago. Would you still have the chance to send your energy stream circling back and forth around his Yuan Yue point? Root Fairy rebuffed. That's right, but even though Big Brother's method might heal his internal injuries, he would still not be able to walk using both of his feet. Wouldn't that be a blemish in an otherwise perfect solution? I think my method is still the best. This lad's internal wounds are really related to passage blockage, to his pericardium. We got to use our inner energy to clear the blockage in the 3 visceral cavities in his kidney channel, Branch Fairy concluded. What kind of nonsense is that? How would you know that his internal wounds are related to passage blockage to his pericardium? Did you get into his body and check yourself? Root Fairy rebuked angrily. The arguing went on and on among the 3 brothers. Leaf Fairy suddenly spoke out. I don't think it's a good idea to let the energy stream circling back and forth around his Yuan Yue point. It would be better to work on his foot to kidney Xiao Yin channel first. Before anyone had a chance to comment, he had already grabbed onto the Yin Gu point on Ling Huchong's left knee. A stream of hot energy seeped inside Ling Huchong's body through the pressure point. Trunk Fairy was infuriated. Hey, are you making trouble for me again? Let's each give it a try then, and see who's really right. After the words, he immediately worked harder on gathering more inner energy and filled them directly into Ling Huchong's body. So it looks like they're all trying to heal him, but there's 6 people, and they're all using 6 different ways to heal the guy, which can't turn out great, right? Ling Huchong almost vomited and felt like that blood would spurt out of his mouth again any second. He groaned hard inwardly. This is terrible. This is so terrible. The 6 of them really have good intentions and want to save my life, but they simply can't agree with each other, and each one decides to work on me in his unique way. I must have real lousy luck this time. He wanted to speak out and call on the 6 fairies to stop right away, but he didn't even have the strength to move his tongue. He took the palm strike on the chest, which resulted in several internal injuries. Then, of course, it would be logical to start healing from his hand to lung Taiyang channel. The best solution would be to fill my inner energy stream into his Zhongfu, Chiye, Hongsue, and Xiaoshang points. Root Fairy started talking again. Big brother, Trunk Fairy said, I admire you in many different things, but you have to admit that I am much better than you in healing with inner energy. This lad is running a fever all over his body, and that's the symptom of having too much positive energy in his body. We must start from his hand Taiyang channel. I've decided to open up his Shangyang, Hegu, Shoushan Li, Chuyu, and Jingxiang acupuncture points. Wrong, totally wrong, Branch Fairy said as he shook his head hard. What do you know? Why are you saying that I am totally wrong? Branch Fairy rebuffed angrily. Root Fairy, on the other hand, became quite happy. He said with a smile, Third brother is the one who understands medical principles after all. He knows that I got it right, and second brother got it wrong. Well, second brother sure got it wrong, but big brother, you didn't get it right either, Leaf Fairy commented. Look at him. This lad is showing a blank stare. His lips are trembling. Yet he just doesn't want to talk. Ling Wuchong scolded inwardly. Who said I don't want to talk? After you guys sent your energy streams into a wild goose chase inside my body, how could I still have any strength left to talk? Leaf Fairy continued. Then of course his mind isn't working right and he is turning into a retard. We must work on his Yang Ming stomach channel. Ling Huchong scolded inwardly again. Your mind isn't working right. You are the real here. You are the real dumb person here. Right after Leaf Fairy's words, Ling Huchong felt pain coming from his Subai point right below the eye socket, and then sourness came from his Di Kang point by the corner of his mouth. Immediately Immediately after, severe pain came from the Da Ying point, Jia Chi point on his face, and many other points like To Wei point and Xia Guang point on top of his head. And in the next moment, great sourness and itchiness followed. His facial muscles ended up going into spasms. These points are all like meridian points, right? That's the Chinese thing. You've worked on him for so long, yet he still can't talk. Root Fairy spoke. I think his brain is just fine. Maybe his tongue is real stiff. That would be the symptom of a bad cold. Let me heal him with my inner energy by working on his Yin Bai, Tai Bai, Gongsun, Shang Chu, Du Chu, and those types of acupuncture points. But, if it doesn't work, you'd better not blame me for it. If your method doesn't work, you'd get him killed for sure. Then how could he not blame you for it? Tongue Fairy replied. But if you already know that his tongue is getting stiff and still not work on his foot to spleen Tai Yin channel, are you just going to watch him die? Root Fairy argued. But if your method is wrong, it's going to be pretty bad, Branch Fairy suggested. Wrong method would be pretty bad, but not able to heal him is just as bad, Flower Fairy cut in. We've already worked on him for so long and he's still not getting any better. I am pretty sure he is having heart problems. We've got to work on his hand-to-heart Xiaoyang channel first. It is obvious that the key lies in Xiaohai, Hongli, Shenmen, and Xiaochong, those 4 acupuncture points. Didn't you say that we should work on his foot-to-kidney Xiaoyin channel yesterday? How come you are talking about hand-to-heart Xiaoyang channel today? Xiaoyang is all about gathering positive energy, and Xiaoyin is all about generating negative energy. Yin and Yang are totally opposite of each other. Have you made up your mind about which one is the right one? Root Fairy challenged. Well, positive energy, Yang, only exists because negative energy, Yin, exists. They are the 2 sides of the same thing, representing that one divides the 2. Tai Chi generates 2 bearings, and the 2 bearings merge again to make Tai Chi. Therefore, sometimes 1 divides into 2, and sometimes 2 merge to make 1. Xiaoyang and Xiaoyin are both part of the pair. It's not wise to just lump everything together. Ling Wuxiang couldn't help but groan inwardly. You might think it's fine to make up lame excuses and nonsense, but what about my life? It's no trifling matter. We've tried this and that, but none seems to work. I've made up my mind. The only solution is to act willfully, Root Fairy announced. How are you going to act willfully? Trunk Fairy, Branch Fairy, and the rest of the fairies asked in unison. This is apparently a very unique illness. Since it is a unique illness, we'll have to start from unique acupuncture points that are outside of the various channels. I'm going to seal his Yin Tang, Jin Lu, Yu Yu, Yu Yao, Bai Lao, and 12 Jing points using distant point stealing technique, Root Fairy explained. Big brother, don't do that. It's too risky, the 5 fairies shouted all together. Why not? If I don't do it now, this lad would be dead in no time, Root Fairy shouted. Ling Wuxiang felt as if numerous blades had cut through his Yin Tang, Jin Lu, and the rest of the acupuncture points, one after another with unbearable pain. Soon the pain became so severe that he couldn't even tell from which acupuncture point the pain came from. He tried to howl with his mouth wide open, yet not a single sound came out. Right at that moment, a stream of hot energy forced its way into his pressure points on the foot to spleen Tai Yin channel and started to flow inside him like a wild tide. Soon another stream of hot energy emerged through the pressure points on the hand to heart Xiaoyang channel. The 2 streams of energy clashed and splattered each other wildly. Not long after, 3 more streams of hot energy forced their way from different pressure points in different channels. Ling Wuxiang's heart was filled with anger and frustration, and his body, in the meantime, experienced unprecedented and unbearable pain and suffering. In the last couple of days, when Peach Valley 6 fairies meddled with healing him on a wild goose chase, he had been in a coma and had no idea about it. But at the current moment, he was conscious, yet had no means to stop the Peach Valley 6 fairies from running wild. He could feel the 6 streams of hot energy forcing their way through his body at random, and his liver, gallbladder, kidney, lung, heart, spleen, stomach, intestine, bladder, pericardium, the 3 visceral cavities, and all other vital organs had become playgrounds and battlefield for the 6 brothers' energy streams. Ling Wuxiang was furious. He yelled out inwardly. If I am lucky enough to survive this time, I'll chop you 6 pigs into 10,000 pieces. Deep inside his heart, he knew that Peach Valley's six fairies all had good intents, and trying to heal him using inner energy would exhaust a good amount of their own energy. They would only have done this to friends with exceptional relationship, but at the very moment, he felt almost as if he was boiled, fried, and roasted alive. The suffering was so severe and so unbearable that if he had been able to speak, he would have spilled out the most venomous curses possible in human language. Even while each of the six fairies worked on healing Ling Huchong's internal wound using his own method, they never stopped arguing against each other. They had no idea that they had really made a huge mess with the passages and channels in Ling Huchong's body and made it a lot worse. Ling Huchong had been practicing Huashan School's high-grade qigong techniques since he was young, even though his achievement of inner energy wasn't at a high level. Because it was a kind of orthodox inner energy practice, he had a very solid foundation. And fortunately, because of the solid foundation, he was able to linger on in a steadily worsening condition and didn't simply give it all up at the very beginning through the many days of healing, or should it be called torturing, from the six fairies' meddling around. Yeah, they're kind of like cooking him, right? Like it's all chaos inside his body right now. Peach Valley's six fairies worked with their energy streams for a long while, but they could all tell that Ling Huchong's heartbeat had become weaker and weaker, and his breathing took longer and longer. It seemed that he could stop breathing and pass away any second now. They couldn't help but feel worried. I don't want to do this anymore. If I keep going and get him killed, he's gonna turn into a ghost in limbo, and that will keep haunting me and scaring the hell out of me, Fruit Fairy announced as he pulled his palm away from Ling Huchong's acupuncture point. Root Fairy yelled angrily, if this lad kicks the bucket, he'll definitely blame you first, and once he turned into a ghost stuck in limbo, he'll always haunt you and only you. In terror, Fruit Fairy let out a scream and jumped out of the window. Trunk Fairy, Branch Fairy, and the rest of the fairies pulled their hands back one. Burp. They pulled their hands back one after another. Some knitted their eyebrows together and wrinkled their noses, while others shook their heads back and forth. None had any idea of what to do next. Looks like this lad is not going to make it. What do we do? Leaf Fairy asked. Why don't you guys go tell the little nun that he couldn't stand the palm strike from that short dude and decided to die? We have ripped that short dude into 4 pieces and avenged his death already, Trunk Fairy suggested. Should we tell her about how we tried to heal him with our energy streams? Root Fairy asked. No, never. You can't mention that, Trunk Fairy replied in a hurry. But what if the little nun then asks why we didn't try to heal him? What then? Root Fairy asked. Then we'll have to say that we tried to heal him but couldn't heal him, Trunk Fairy answered. Then wouldn't the little nun blame us and call Peach Valley's 6 fairies 6 good-for-nothing and useless skunks? Root Fairy rebuffed. What? The little nun called us 6 skunks? How rude! Trunk Fairy yelled out in rage. The little nun didn't say that, I did, Root Fairy corrected him. Then how would you know that she called us that? Trunk Fairy rebuked angrily. Maybe she will, Root Fairy said. And maybe she won't. What kind of rubbish is that? Trunk Fairy wasn't too happy. Once this lad is dead, the little nun is going to get so mad. More likely than not, she will call us something like that, Root Fairy insisted. I bet that the little nun will break into a loud and bitter cry, but she won't call us bad names, Trunk Fairy predicted. I'd rather have her call us 6 skunks than watching her cry out loud, Root Fairy disputed. She may not call us 6 skunks, but something else, Trunk Fairy argued. Then what else? Root Fairy asked. Do we 6 brothers look like skunks? I don't think it's even close. She might as well call us 6 pussycats, Trunk Fairy explained. Why? Why do we look like pussycats? Leaf Fairy cut in. When you call people names, they don't have to look it. When you call people names, they don't have to look like it, Flower Fairy joined the battle. We 6 brothers are 6 guys. If the little nun called us 6 guys, was she calling us bad names? But if she called us 6 stupid guys or bad guys, then she would be calling us bad names. Branch Fairy dismissed the theory. That still sounds better than 6 skunks, Flower Fairy disagreed. What if the 6 skunks are smart skunks, competent skunks, brave skunks, heroic skunks, and the 6 great skunks in the martial world? Would 6 guys sound better, or would 6 skunks sound better? Branch Fairy questioned. Lying in bed and in his last gasp, Ling Chong couldn't help but feel greatly amused at the endless debate. Somehow, a stream of energy traveled upward and provided him a burst of brief strength to actually talk out loud. Even 6 skunks are much better than you guys. The 5 fairies were all astounded. Before any of them had a chance to think the words through, Fruit Fairy had already asked from outside the window, "Why would 6 skunks be better than us?" Right, why would 6 skunks be better than us? The 5 fairies inside asked in unison. Ling Huchong really wanted to spill out endless abuses and curses wholeheartedly, but he simply did not have any strength left to do it. You'd better send me back to Mount Huashan. Only my master can save my life. He squeezed the words out disjointedly. What? Only your master can save your life? Are you saying that Peach Valley 6 fairies are incapable of saving your life? Fruit Fairy asked in disbelief. Ling Huchong struggled to signal a nod, and that used up the last bit of strength in his body. He opened his mouth but could no longer make any sound. That is just outrageous. What's so special about your master? How can he possibly be any better than us? Peach Valley 6 fairies. Leaf Fairy mocked angrily. Huh, ask his master to have a fight with us, Flower Fairy followed. We grab onto his 2 arms and 2 legs, wham, we rip him into 4 pieces, Trunk Fairy added. Fruit Fairy jumped back in through the window. Even all the boys and girls on Mount Huashan will rip them all into 4 pieces, one after another, he suggested. Even all the dogs and cats and pigs and goats and chicken and ducks and turtles and fish and shrimps will grab onto their 4 limbs and rip them all into 4 pieces, Flower Fairy added. Do fish and shrimps have limbs? How are you going to grab onto their 4 limbs? Branch Fairy questioned. Just grab onto the head and the tail, and then the top fin and the bottom fin, Flower Fairy answered after a brief pause. A fish head is not a limb of the fish, Branch Fairy pressed on. No, it's not a limb. It doesn't matter, Flower Fairy replied. Of course it matters a great deal. Since it's not a limb, that means your first sentence is completely wrong, Branch Fairy concluded. Flower Fairy knew very well that Branch Fairy had gotten a handle here, but he still tried to defend himself by sophistry. What do you mean by my first sentence is completely wrong? You said even all the dogs and cats and pigs and goats and chickens and ducks and turtles and fish and shrimps will grab onto their 4 limbs and rip them all into pieces. Didn't you say that? Branch Fairy said. Sure, I said that, but that sentence isn't the first sentence that I said. I've already spoken hundreds and thousands of sentences. Why did you say that this was my first sentence? If we start counting from the day I was born, I could have already spoken many millions of sentences. That certainly wasn't the first sentence I spoke, Flower Fairy argued. Branch Fairy was stumped by the answer and found himself completely tongue-tied, having no clue about how to argue that. Did you say turtles? Trunk Fairy asked. That's right, a turtle has front legs and back legs, so of course it has 4 limbs, Flower Fairy said. But when we grab onto the turtle's front legs and back legs and pull in 4 directions, how are we going to rip it into 4 pieces? Trunk Fairy questioned. Why can't we? What kind of kung fu does a turtle have that can counter our 4 brothers' mighty rip? Flower Fairy didn't get it. It's very easy to rip the turtle's body into 4 pieces, but what about its hard shell? How can you rip the shell into 4 pieces by pulling the turtle's 4 legs? If you're going to rip the hard shell into pieces, then we'll end up with 5 pieces, not 4, Trunk Fairy explained. Turtle shells don't go by piece. How can you say a piece of shell? You can't say a piece of shell, can you? You just said 5 pieces, and that's wrong, Flower Fairy argued. There are a total of 13 blocks on a turtle shell, so 4 is wrong and 5 is also wrong, Branch Fairy clarified. I said rip into 5 pieces. I didn't say there are 5 blocks on a turtle shell. You are obviously confused, Branch Fairy snubbed. Root Fairy picked it up this time. You are only ripping the body of the turtle into 4 pieces and leaving the turtle's hard shell alone. So you can only say rip it into 4 pieces plus a hard shell that can't be ripped apart. That's why what you just said, rip it into 5 pieces, is faulty wording. And it's not only faulty wording, but also completely wrong. Oh my god, these guys, you guys. Come on. Stop arguing. That's right, Streety. Streety McNeedy. These guys are the most annoying types of people. Big brother, you just said it wrong. Faulty wording is not completely wrong, and completely wrong can't be faulty wording. These two are totally different. How can you mix them all up and confuse one with the other? Leaf Fairy commented. Hearing those six rattling on and on, Ling Huchong would have burst into loud laughter if he weren't on the verge of between life and death. Those guys' words and acts were extremely funny and laughable, yet he only became more and more annoyed. Then he thought better of it. What are the odds of bumping into such six wait, what are the odds of bumping into six such unique and matchless freaks? Such a chance had got to be hard to come by. This must be a trick from the mighty creator, maybe one of his rare jokes. To have the chance to be present personally on such a grand occasion is really something. I guess my life has its worth already. I really should make a toast for that. At that thought, his unrestrained spirit took over. Give me some wine, he shouted. Hearing these words, Peach Valley's six fairies immediately found themselves in much merrier spirits. Excellent, excellent. He wants to drink wine. Then he's not gonna die, they all said. Ah, we're done. We're done. Yes. I feel like that whole chapter was just the six fairies arguing with each other. That was like in the beginning, it was like 20% them ripping the guy into four pieces, and then 80% them just arguing. Uh. Whew. How was that chapter, you guys? Let me know in the chat. So, man, these guys can really argue about the smallest thing. What just happened? Yeah, what did just happen? So let's recap, I guess. The chapter was like the guys from the sword branch of the Huashan school trying to take over the school, and they wanted to have a match with the master's wife, but then Ling Wuchang comes in and he's like, "Oh no, you fight with me, right?" So Ling Wuchang uses a broom and uses the martial arts from the cave that he found, right? So he uses a broom because it looks like a, what was it called? A thunderbolt mace, whatever that is. Um, so he uses a broom and it looks like that weapon from the drawings on the back cave, and he defeats him, right? He totally defeats him. So he totally counters his sword techniques. But then he gets then he punches, or he, wait, what did he do? Oh yeah. So he did this thing where he caught the guy's sword in his broom, right? In his broom handle. So the sword got pierced his broom handle, and he just threw the sword into the air. And then the guy loses his sword, and then the guy gets mad, and he does a palm strike against Ling Huchong, right? So that's a chi technique, and it really hurts Ling Huchong, right? And right at that moment, the six freaks come over, and because they wanted to defend Ling Huchong, they ripped the guy into four pieces. Like within 2 seconds, they ripped the guy into four pieces, and they grab Ling Huchong and they run away. And then, because they're super fast, no one can chase after them. So they grab Ling Huchong, they run away, and then they try to heal his wounds. And because there are six guys who like to argue, and they have all of them, each one of them have a different way to heal Ling Huchong, and so they just each one of them have does their own thing to try to heal Ling Huchong, and he's like suffering and in pain. And then basically 80% of the chapter is just them arguing. And I can barely talk now because I gotta do those voices. There's like there's like what is going on in the chat? A lot of existential talk. Oh, Losh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Did the schedule change? Oh, DD, what's up, DD? The schedule did change. But not because I changed the schedule. It's because of daylight savings. Okay. Yeah. So we're now an hour later. Wait, or an hour earlier. It is now, well, for me is an hour earlier, but I guess for someone who hasn't changed their times, the stream will now start an hour later. So it's still 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. So yeah. All right. Well, it's hard for me to talk now. So I think we're good. Oh, let's do the drink at the end, and then I think we'll finish. Give me a sec. Avinash. Hey, love from India. Hey, what's up? Cheers from the United States. All right, bye, Orava. Hope you like the stream. All right. Ugh. All right, cheers. Good stuff. All right, guys. I think we're good. I'm kind of tired. I think we'll stop. See you guys next time. I love you. And hope you had a nice Halloween. Good chat there besides the arguing. Yeah. Hi guys. Bye. I'll see you.